Right, we're going to start again. What we're doing this week, in case you didn't hear Shawn, because you couldn't hear Shawn because his mic wasn't on, we're talking about alternative class feature variants, optional class features called different things in different sources. We were specifically inspired by the UA that was released before Tasha's, because we specifically wanted to replace class features, not just enhance them and add options, but we wanted to give you a choice of two different things. Our original plan was that we would be replacing
As you
smaller
heard,
features,
I'm back.
and that they. Hey, Sean's back, and that they might not generate that much discussion. But Zach and I both decided to replace critical features of their class. So we'll see how that goes.
This is the Lost Ledgers.
Yes, I didn't say the name of the show. It's the Lost Ledgers.
The Lost Ledgers. And yes, everything Adam just said is correct. This week, we are actually going to start with mine. It's actually, so far, I don't think we've ever started with mine. But the reason for that is, again, because I made smaller features that probably aren't going to be as much to talk about. So we're going to kind of just sprinkle mine in between Zach's and Adam's here. So I'm just going to start. I'm just going to, as they say, jump into it.
Which one are you doing first?
The top one. I do in order of the page.
The stream has a different one on it.
Oh, he probably edited
no, it
the
doesn't.
document after you loaded it. Just refresh the page.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I have the correct, I think. Oh, no, you're right, you're right. I did the thing that Adam just said. So we'll talk about the one that was on the screen in a moment, because I'm starting off with my most boring one.
Full of surprises today.
I'm starting off my most boring one. So I'm just going to read it from top to bottom here. Alternate Arcana. First level wizard feature replaces Arcane Recovery. Arcane Recovery, of course, being the ability that wizards can, once per long rest, return a number of spell slots to themselves equal to half their wizard level. I've changed it to instead be about utility, about flexibility, as opposed to power. So you've learned to be flexible in mind for unseen circumstances. When you finish a short rest, you can choose spells you have prepared and exchange them to prepare other spells of the same level. The spell levels can have a combined level that is equal to or less than half your wizard level rounded up, and none of the spells can be of 6th level or higher. So you can swap around 5th level and lower spells for spells of the same level. I have a for example here, but I think it's kind of clear. If you want to swap out, if you're 6th level, you can swap out a 3rd for a 3rd, or you can swap out a 1st and a 2nd for another 1st and a 2nd. You cannot specifically say swap a 3rd level spell for 3 1st level spells. They must be swapped for the same level spell. This way, the wizard doesn't have a full throttle of their flexibility. This is simply in situations where you go into a scenario not as prepared as you thought you were going to be, and you're like, I think there is a 2nd level spell that can do better here than, say, Hold Person or something like that. So
right, or it's like, oh man, I had Arcane Lock prepared for today, but we're actually going climbing, so maybe I should have Featherfall instead.
How many times do you prepare for a downtime and then you find some crazy ass shit that you go exploring randomly? And it's like, see, I thought we were doing some subterfuge, and now things have turned into completely violent shit. I gotta redo things, and that's exactly what this is here for. You go and do it once per long rest.
You go into a situation ready for combat, and you're like, oh, wait, no, I'm talking to people. I'm in the middle of a dinner party. Like, oh, I need different spells ready. Like,
exactly. And that's exactly what this features here. And this is exactly, in case anybody was confused by what we mean by optional features, this is exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about. Where you kind of change how the class works in some fundamental way by changing just a class feature into something typically as simple or widely useful. So I decided to put this one first because I think it's the best example of just like the kinds of things that you would have seen in the UA itself and in Tasha's.
Right. Well, and this is a very clear one-for-one swap because this mechanically operates in a very similar way to Arcane Recovery. You have an amount of spell levels that you can affect, whether that's recovering slots or changing your prepared spells. And that's the thing, this isn't as flashy as Arcane Recovery, but I think this is almost as useful. Like, this is This is nice.
Yeah, because there's some situations you can't use this only because you do have to take a short rest first, but still, it's definitely useful.
Right. This is less helpful for, oh, I'm going into this combat and realize that I've got too many fire spells prepared for these fiends that we're facing. But if you go into a dungeon and realize, oh, this is populated by fiends, at the first short rest that you take, you have the opportunity to be like, well, let me pick up some cold spells or some force damage or something.
Yeah, change things around, and that's exactly what I was just aiming for here. I think one of the biggest things that the wizard has in its arsenal, the big thing that stands out is its utility and its flexibility, just because the number of spells that they get to have compared to other classes, and this is just really leaning on that. So you're swapping out the play of kind of a blaster, and instead going into just like the full utility. I'm here for the niche situations type of build, which I think a lot of people want from the wizard. They want to have that fantasy of just like being prepared for any situation.
Right, yeah. With this, you're no longer the person casting fireball at every problem, but you are really the Swiss Army wizard with just the right spell for every opportunity.
Yeah, this really, I think, fits the wizard just style in general, for sure. Like a big thing with the Divinity Wizard that I like is just almost having this essence of like controlling fate, and this just kind of adds to something like that, where you can just like, you're prepared for every situation or anything that you want to change. You can.
All right. Well, like I said, that was more of just like a buffer of like, this is what you kind of expect from the books. Now we're going to jump into one of the crazier changes, the one done by Zach here.
It's not that long.
It's not that long, but it changes a pretty big thing about the class. So if you want to go ahead and take it away, read off everything here that you have written.
Yeah. It's Gift of Nature. You can switch out the Wild Shape feature for this under the Druid features. If you take this feature, you also replace the Archdruid feature. When you reach second level, you can make your spells more powerful. When you expend a slot of first level, you can use this feature to cast it as if it were one spell slot higher. You can use this feature twice before you finish a long rest. When you reach fourth level, this feature increases to spell slots of second level or lower, and eighth level, it increases to spell slots of fourth level or lower. Do you want me to do the second one with this one?
Yeah, because it's like one for one. It goes together.
And if you've taken this feature, then you also take the Nature's Power feature, would be your new 20th level feature. At 20th level, your Gift of Nature feature increases to 7th level or lower spell slots, and all spell slots expended at 4th level or lower are always cast at a level higher.
I see we're keeping the theme of druids being the most powerful 20th level ability.
That is
how to keep it comparable
level ability. I like this a lot. Like the idea of being able to just pump some extra juice into your spells whenever you need it. Not all the time, but when you really need it. That's phenomenal.
You can only do it twice until you get to 20th level, which lots of classes get lots of crazy things at 20th level.
And honestly, I don't think that this is as powerful as it reads at first. Because as it reads at first, it's like, what? I get a second level spell slot at level 1? This is insane. Or I'm sorry, a second level spell slot at level 2? This is insane. But you aren't really. You're getting a first level spell that is upcast, which is not usually as good as an actual second level spell. I think that this, I would definitely want to be cautious trying this at a table, but I think this might be perfectly reasonable. Like, it's definitely a far-reaching change, but this, I think, could be good.
I do have a couple questions about it, but I know that you said something that I want you to touch on and like explain, because this does change a lot of people's like fantasy with druids, right? One of the big things about being a druid is being able to wild shape. But you said there was something about this, about like what you wanted from a druid, and I want you to kind of touch onto that. Like, what is this doing for you that the base druid isn't doing for you?
Yeah, so my it roots in like old days playing like World of Warcraft. I always
Right.
liked playing healer druids. So to me, druids
Ah.
were a bit more of a spellcasting class, and yeah, they have shape changing, and it was useful. And even in the campaign that we're in, I used the shape changing very, very minuscule. Especially because I'm not gonna be a 28th level druid, and I'm not like going to have. I didn't go moon druid, so this is making you more of a spellcasting druid, a more powerful spellcasting druid.
So more focused on the actual support that druids bring, that some people that come from these like MMOs would expect a druid to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And because like I said, I vary in our long standing campaign, very minusculely do I have memories of changing into animals very often, even though I am an 8th level druid and can do it at CR1. It's just not worth it most of the time. So if
Yeah.
I could have this instead where I can increase my spells, I would take it.
Well,
Now-
I love the idea of like drawing on nature to just
Yeah.
pump up what you're already doing. Like that's really cool.
I agree. Now that does lead me to something here, because you did have the foresight of changing Archdruid, which if you don't know, Archdruid makes it so that you can use your wild shape unlimited every day. You can just change however you want. This obviously changes Archdruid because you don't have wild shape anymore. Now my question is, because you brought up Moon Druid, did you think about what this might do for the Moon Druid then? Because one of their features is they buff wild shape.
I didn't think of that. Well, I did, but I didn't because you're not going to go this if you're going Moon Druid. It's just an option. It's not like this is forced upon you. So because
your
it's an
intention
option
here is, if you go Moon Druid, you should not be choosing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's an option, but like it definitely wouldn't make you stronger as a Moon Druid. Like if you're going Moon Druid, you want the shapes to be your strongest. If you're going this, then you want spellcasting to be strong.
What level do druids choose their circle at?
Second.
Second.
Second?
Is it second or third?
I think it's second. I'm pretty sure it's second, because that's when you get wild shape is second level, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it's
okay.
at
I
second
wasn't
levels.
sure if they choose it at the level that they gain access to wild shape.
Yep,
now
it's second, so you would be choosing at the same level.
I 100% agree that if you're going Moon Druid, you're going Moon Druid because you want to be a little wild shape. Like, that's the big thing. I mean, that's what the moon's like, arcane, like that's what the whole like mysticism of the moon is like shape shifting and all of that. So I understand that would break the flavor of the Moon Druid, and it makes sense for someone who would take this feature. Probably is not going to take Moon Druid. I do think though that it is still an option to take Moon Druid, and because this would negate one of their subclass features, I think it's you have to change it. I think that while I agree that like you really shouldn't take Moon Druid if you have this, I think that option shouldn't be taken away from them. I think a really easy fix for the Moon Druid with this, because you've changed this, the wild shape normally comes back on a short rest. You've made this on a long rest, which is a great change, I think.
I took a long time deciding whether I wanted it to be, because it felt a little too strong if it was a short rest.
Yeah, and I think a simple change for the Moon Druid, just change that 6th level feature to wild shape. Just give them base wild shape, essentially. So they can choose between having wild shape and this ability, or having wild shape and a strong wild shape.
That's actually really cool. So like if the Moon Druid takes this, what they get for being the Moon Druid is access to wild shape at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
At a 6th level improvement, you said?
I think it's 6th level they get that improvement, yeah. I'm not sure. Is it? I think it's 6, because I think it starts off because it's 1/3 of your druid level is the CR you can be. So you start off immediately at CR2 when you're the Moon Druid, when you get that ability. They also have a 10th level ability where they can use both of their wild shapes to turn into an elemental, or I think it's just one of them. So that would also have to be changed. Or you could just give them the ability to do that once per long rest or something, or once per short rest, for instance. You wouldn't necessarily need to like completely revamp the subclass, but I think those two do deserve a tweak. I think they also get the ability to cast spells, perhaps, while in their wild shape. There's a lot like the Moon Druid would have to
level feature or something.
I think so. More like 14.
Oh, wait, actually, No, I think that's a base druid.
It might
feature.
be. Is it a base druid feature? In which case that has to be changed as well. Because
It is. It's the 18th one.
Yeah, so that has to be changed with this feature as well. I like what this feature is doing, though. I think it's just clear that some of the features will have to be retouched because, like we know, the wild shape is a base. It is a core thing for the druid. So of course, changing it's gonna ripple into I need to change this and this and this as well, so that the whole class is still functional to its full degree.
Honestly, adding the 6th level, just you get the wild shapes might be a fix.
For the Moon Druid, yeah, but it doesn't fix the 18th level ability for the druids where they can cast spells in a wild shape.
Well, then you could still become a beast at that point, though, and then wild shape and use spells while you're wild shape.
I think what Shawn's saying is that would be the 6th level feature for the Moon Druid subclass. But the 18th level feature that we're talking about is available to all druids.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're talking about changing specifically the
Yeah, because
6th level feature of the Moon Druid.
Yeah, that one I can see just giving them straight wild shape, but the 18th feature for the base class depends on wild shape, so that has to be changed as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, that becomes a lot of different changes, different features.
if I'm correct, it's the 18th level ability, right? Yeah, 18th level, you can cast druid spells while you wild shape, so that has to be changed. But yeah, I think I don't think any of those warrant a complete overhaul, just like a quick tweak. Like there's a clear pattern that you've established with this ability, right? Same with wild shape. There's a clear pattern of it getting stronger. This is a clear pattern of getting stronger. It wouldn't be that hard to just expand upon that even more. I think it definitely needs a little bit more work done, which we'll probably have to do before we actually post these abilities. But I like what this does.
For the 18th level feature, the one that normally lets you cast spells while wild shaped, what if that just gave you a 3rd use per long rest?
Ooh.
Just buff it up a little bit more.
I would be down for it to just give you back the feature at a short rest.
Yeah, that's
that's also probably fine. By the time you're 18th level, that's probably fine.
That's exactly why I made this 20th level thing what it was.
Yeah.
Like, by the time you're 20th level, what the fuck are you even? Like,
yeah. I think the 20th level might warrant some tweaks just because it is 20th level, but that's hard to balance against like the other 20th level abilities that are trash. And then also
it's like because Archdruid is the best 20th level ability in the game. Almost without exception. Like there's arguments for like maybe some of the paladin subclass ones, but that leads us to an entirely different argument of subclass capstones, which I think we can save for another week. But like it's really hard to balance a 20th level ability because some of them are great, like Archdruid, and some of them are garbage.
Yeah. Like absolutely. My gut instinct with the Nature's Power is maybe like make it so that's only 3rd level or lower that's upcast instead of 4th. But then it kind of goes
make it slightly more symmetrical to like the wizard's very high level abilities of only affecting like that first tier of spells.
Yeah, because the wizard's 20th level ability is they can cast 2 3rd level spells once per long rest without expending a spell slot. So that would be kind of like on the same level.
Yeah. I'd be fine with bumping that one down. I think that makes sense. I just kept it. I did 4th because it was thematic with the at 8th level you get 4th or lower.
Yeah, it matches the.
Yeah, and also I originally was gonna do 5th, and I was like, that's just too.
That would be too strong. That would definitely.
So
be
I bumped
strong.
it down 1, and I was like, 4th feels kind of strong, but not terrible. But I'd be down for 3rd as well.
And I think the 7th level and lower is a good spot to be at because.
I did not want you to be able to cast 8th levels as 9th levels.
With at least 6th and 7th, by 20th level, you get 2 of each of those, and you never get an extra 8th level. So there's clearly a distinction between those levels in some way, for the end game at least. But I love where this is coming from, and obviously just needs to be expanded to all the other features that like rely on it.
Changing wild shape has far-reaching consequences.
Yeah. Thanks for the follow, by the way, Alex. I forgot to turn on the feature in our chat that like does the flare when someone follows. I think, it doesn't show up. I thought turning on Streamlabs just fixed that, but I guess not. So I'll have to figure that out once more. I really need to put some time into that. All right. again, I think it's great. I think we've touched on exactly what we need to touch on with this one. So I'm willing to move on to the next one.
Yeah, as am I. I think I've said what I have to say about this,
All right.
which is that I love it.
All right. My next one is the one that was on the stream originally that I had to fix. So this is between Adam's going to be next, so we're just peppering these in the middle. So this one is Resolute. 9th level fighter feature replaces Indomitable. If you don't know what Indomitable is, it's the ability that once per long rest, when you initially get at 9th level, you can re-roll a saving throw. That's it. I changed it to when you start your turn affected by an effect which allows you to make a saving throw at the end of your turn to end, you can make the saving throw at the start of this turn instead. So, for instance, hold person. If you're affected by a hold person, you can make a save to become not paralyzed at the end of your turn, but you lose your turn in those situations. In this situation, you get your turn back if you use this because it allows you to make the save at the beginning of your turn and become unparalyzed before you actually take actions. If you do so, on this turn, you can use either an action or a bonus action, not both. So you're effectively substituting some amount of your action economy to undo this effect on your turn. At 13th level, when you use this feature, you don't have that restriction anymore. And then at 17th level, there's a typo in level there. When you use this feature, you can make a saving throw to end the effect at both the start and the end of your turn. So you get 2 chances to end the effect on each of your turns. One of the big things between this and Indomitable is that this is not limited by a long rest. You can do this as many times as you want. So that's probably one of the bigger changes. Whereas Indomitable, the whole point is to cut the effect off at the pass. You're never affected by it because you reroll a save when you were affected by it. With this, you are still affected by it at least until the start of your next turn. And then you're able to undo at the cost of your economy at first, and then 13th not anymore, and then 17th you just get both. So the idea is that the fighter is they aren't easily put down. They are fighting against. This is like anti-protagonist shit. They are able to push more than anybody else. They're able to overcome the pain and be themselves without restriction, to the best of their ability anyway, compared to other classes, and I think helps the fighter stand out a little bit more. Now, this did have an effect on one subclass feature, and that is for the across everyone most panned subclass for the fighter, and that's the Purple Dragon Knight from I think Sword Coast. I think it's from.
Yeah, it's from the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide.
Yeah, that subclass ability allowed you, when you used Indomitable, to allow an ally that can see you, or that can see or hear you within 60 feet, to also reroll a saving throw against the same effect, if it's a saving throw against Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. This is effectively doing the same thing. It's just saying if you start your turn, you can immediately let a creature that's under the same effect as you make the saving throw at the start of your turn as well. And that one is limited by a number of times that equals your proficiency bonus, because it expands to other creatures and I think takes more power away. So that's it.
As much as I do love having more options most of the time, something about this one makes me think that what you get after you save from the saving throw should just be an action and not a choice of action or bonus action.
Well, sometimes the bonus action is more valuable than an action.
I know.
Especially for the fighter.
I know. That's why even though as much as I do love having more options, I'm not sure.
The reason I chose this is because I'm effectively kind of copying the ability of Slow. Slow is the same way, where you can choose a bonus action or an action. You don't just lose your action or your bonus action. You get to choose between one of the two. And that, I think that's something that could be explored more with 5e. I think that too many effects, you just lose all or nothing. And I think losing some amount of one or the other is something that should be explored more often in the game. The reason I don't want this to take away your action wholesale It's because it kind of breaks the reason you'd want to do this in the first place, right? What's the point of doing this if I just can't use my action anyway?
No,
Well,
no, you get your action.
My
not
understanding
your
of what Zach was
bonus
saying was
action.
that he thinks it should always take away your bonus action.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I guess so. Well, then why is that the case then that you think it should do that?
I kind of think that having the choice just feels kind of fiddly. It feels
Yeah.
kind of fiddly, and it feels like you're laying a trap for the players. Because almost always, choosing the bonus action will be the wrong choice. Keeping your bonus action instead of your action is usually going to be wrong. And I really don't like trap options for players. I like having a variety of choices, but I don't like laying a trap, like, in one place. Like, I think it's fine if there are multiple abilities that, like, are anti-synergistic with each other, but I don't like it if one ability provides you a choice where you're almost always supposed to do one thing.
I think you're misunderstanding what a trap option is supposed to be in tabletop. A trap option is like a permanent option, right? It's something that you choose that just bars you out of any other choices later on because it seems appealing at first. But this is a choice you make at the beginning of each of your turns, right? This isn't a trap option because this is something that you negotiate in. You have all the context to make your choice in this situation. Whereas, for instance, the Find Trap spell seems like a useful ability, and you might take it, but it's a trap option because as a ranger, it's locking out of you out of other choices later on because it seems valuable, and you can't change it till you level up again. But
I
this
understand that
has a lot
most
more
traps are more
context.
permanent than this, but I don't like that this is providing you a choice that is 90% of the time or more, there is a correct choice. I don't like when you are given a choice that you shouldn't be making. Like,
I don't agree with that. That seems... I don't know. That seems weirdly conservative.
Enough bonus action things that you could be able to do to be able to make having the bonus action worth it. I don't think as many as action, but something about it to me just feels like it should just be the action, and you lose your bonus action. I don't. It feels like too much of a choice for some reason.
I will say I don't agree with Zach here. I'm merely articulating the argument that I think like best supports him. Like, I think that it's fine that you have the choice, but I'm trying to articulate why that argument makes like. I don't think he's crazy for saying that you shouldn't have the choice, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think it is either, because this is, like I said, this is not something that is often explored in 5e. The only effect that I can think off the top of my head that does this is the slow spell. But that's also the reason why I chose this effect, is because the idea is that you just aren't. This is going to be an interesting thing when we go to our next feature, because it has a similar thing going on. Or my next feature, I mean. Go on, Zach.
My other hang up with it, and I would be willing to have action or bonus action if you did this. I think you should just follow how Indomitable does with how many times you can do it.
I don't think this is as good as Indomitable, and Indomitable is already bad. And kind of following the same line with a lot of Tasha's abilities, this is a buff. This is better than Indomitable. Each individual instance, I think, is not as good as Indomitable, but the overall thing is better. Like, being able to make the save at the beginning of your turn versus the end of your turn is not better than Indomitable for one individual instance, but being able to do that every turn is better than one use of Indomitable. So this is meant to be stronger than Indomitable, because Indomitable is not a good feature.
Right, because being able to do this once is almost on par with one use of Indomitable, but not quite. Because let's say that you're stunned, and you would make a save at the end of your turn. Making that save at the beginning is almost the same as just having advantage on the initial save. But it's a little better because you get to do this every time that you're stunned.
It's also in the individual instance of making it let's say hold person, the first turn you make your save. It's not as good as Indomitable, because with hold person, you are paralyzed between when you failed that first save to the beginning of your turn. So if that enemy has other allies that can take advantage of that paralysis, you are still getting screwed during those turns until the beginning of your next turn. Whereas with Indomitable, when you make the initial save against hold person, you can re-roll that save and never be affected. So, and that's just going further to the point that one individual instance of Indomitable is better than one individual instance of this, but this is overall just better than Indomitable as a full feature. And that's intentional. Indomitable, I'm going to say this for everyone, Indomitable is a bad feature because other classes get better versions of it, and it's stupid and ridiculous. The monk,
like the monk.
The monk can do Indomitable 20 times per short rest, and they also get proficiency in all saves. It's ridiculous. It is a bad feature. But yeah.
That's fair. I can see your point with that.
But I definitely see, like, at first reading, this seems a lot stronger. And it is. It is a lot stronger than Indomitable. But I think at 9th level, it doesn't break much when it costs your action or bonus action to do, because that could be you sacrificing a full round of attacks, or a much needed second wind, or some other maybe magic item bonus action that you got that could be more valuable.
Or a bonus action you've got from another class if you're multi-classing.
If you're multi-classing. And then at 13th level, I think is an appropriate time where you don't need that holdback, because once again, at 14th level, the monk gets 20 instances of Indomitable and proficiency in all saves.
Well, they don't have 20 yet. They have 14 then.
Sorry, 14. Just 14 per short rest.
Only 14 uses of Indomitable per short
And then at 17th level, I'm just like, yeah, that's 4th tier. Let the fighter just make 2 saves per turn. Why not?
One last question I did have on it.
Sure.
Can you still use your movement or no?
Depends on the effect that you say. Well, yeah, it depends on the effect that you saved against, right? Because actually, I guess it doesn't depend on the effect that you saved against, because
you're getting out of it at the start.
Yeah, you're getting out of it at the start of your turn.
Even if it was an effect that reduced your movement to 0, you would be making the save.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, you'd get your turn as normal.
Well, and the thing is, you wouldn't even want to include a rider in Resolute about changing your movement speed, because most of the time you aren't saving against things that affect your movement speed.
Yeah.
So,
and often with fighters, you're already where you need to be anyway. When you're making these saves, you're probably right up in somebody's face, and you want to immediately swing at them. So, you still have your movement if you can use it or if you want to use it. But yeah, the idea here, not all saves that you're making are taking your turn away, right? Maybe you're just restrained, so you can't move. So the save at the beginning of your turn, you're spending your bonus action to get your movement back, essentially, if you want to get out of your restrainment. So I just use hold person as like an example of when this would be very useful. But yeah, with like,
or you might be saving against a frighten effect.
Yeah, against a frighten effect. So most of the time, you're not actually losing your action and bonus action, or even your movement to the effect that you're under, because you could just be blinded, for instance. Mm-hmm. So you're spending your action or bonus action to get out of those effects, which could be, in some instances, not as good than just like taking the four attacks blind, if you fail the attack, but. That's a value judgment the player has to make in that moment.
Right. In the moment, you need to decide: would I rather have 3 attacks with disadvantage and my bonus action, or by the time you'd have 3 attacks, you'd have to be 13th level. Wait, no, you get your 3rd attack at level 10.
Well,
right?
Keep in mind that if you fail the save, you still lose your action and bonus action.
Well, right, but what I was thinking was, like, if you're blinded, for example, like, Are you better off making 2 or 3 attacks at disadvantage and using second wind, or trying to make the save and only being able to do one of those things?
Yeah.
Because you might still be making the attack at disadvantage, even if you attempt the save at the beginning of your turn. Like, there's no guarantee that doing this makes the save.
Absolutely. So there is a potential loss that you take if you there's more risk here than Indomitable. There's no risk in Indomitable. You just re-roll it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Between 9th and 13th level, there is a risk here of you losing action economy for the cost of this, which could be valuable in those situations. But again, that's a value situation that the player has to make at the table when they're using it. And it just goes again to the one individual Indomitable is better than one individual use of this ability.
So I would like to spare a moment to talk about the Purple Dragon Knight.
Yeah.
Because the Purple Dragon Knight does kind of suck.
Yes.
As much as I want to love it, like, in terms of, like, the class fantasy, I think the Purple Dragon Knight is awesome. The Banneret as a subclass for the fighter, I think is great. Bulwark is not a phenomenal ability. And Rampart, in that vein, is not a phenomenal ability. Yeah. I think you would kind of be cheating to replace this with something stronger, just because Bulwark was already exactly this bad. But I demand justice for the Purple Dragon Knight. I just wanted to get that out there.
That's fair. I think it's, I actually like this more than the Purple Dragon Knight's version of it, just because it's like...
No, I do too, because this lets you trigger saves for your allies on your turn.
Yeah, which is fun, I think. Like, we're in this together, and we'll get out of this together. I like that feeling of it. Whereas Indomitable, it's like you shield their mind from the effect, like, in the moment. This is like, I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to get my ally out of this with me. We're arm in arm in this.
Yeah, I'm walking through hell, and I'm dragging you with me.
Yeah.
No, I like this a lot. I think this is a pretty clean switch. Like, it's not as one-for-one as Alternate Arcana versus Arcane Recovery, but I like this a lot. It's still, like, giving you better control over your saving throws, but not in quite the same way that Indomitable does.
Yeah, I think perhaps this might be the strongest one. The next one that I did might be the strongest one. It's kind of up in the air. Maybe it depends on the situation. The other one's more niche than this one is. This one comes up a lot more often, but yeah. I appreciate, like, I debated the idea of, like, just making it the bonus action. But I was like, I'm just generally more in favor of giving choice. Because there are situations where bonus action is better. And if I had this ability and I'm like, but I really need the second wind here, I wouldn't use it. And I'm like, if I could give it my action, maybe it's worth it. I just kind of prefer those situations. But I could see why it can feel fiddly. And sometimes this is a streamlined game, and sometimes a more streamlined ability is worth it. But in the same vein, this is a streamlined game, and if you're new to this game, you really shouldn't be using homebrew class variants for your class. Just
first time at the table, you should be bringing your own homebrew class that you've made to the table.
I like to approach these designs as if they were going to become official published material. I like to think about the overarching design decisions of the game. Even if I disagree with them, I might make the decision to go against that grain, but I think it's worth considering when you're trying to design pieces that are supposed to fit into an existing larger structure.
Yeah.
I like to push the limit and then have you guys restrain me.
That's fair. Well, let's see, because this next feature might be pushing that limit, and also perhaps could be going against the grain here, as Adam said. So let's go ahead and move on to what Adam brought to the table here. Let me scroll down here for us. Adam, why don't you go ahead and describe Rapid Strike for us?
So, Rapid Strike is a first-level rogue feature that replaces Sneak Attack. Beginning at first level, you are able to strike an enemy multiple times in quick succession. Once per turn, when you would make an attack roll with advantage, with a finesse weapon or a light weapon, you may instead opt to make multiple attack rolls against the same target. The number of attack rolls you can make against the target increases as you gain more levels in Rogue, as noted in the Rapid Strikes table. These attack rolls cannot benefit from advantage.
Oh, interesting.
You don't need advantage on the attack roll if another enemy of the target is within 5 feet of it. That enemy isn't incapacitated, and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. So this has mostly the same trigger as sneak attack, but notably, it does not trigger automatically for all ranged weapons. The ranged weapon needs to be either finesse or light.
Interesting.
So, assuming that you are a monoclassed rogue, the number of attacks you get to make is just your proficiency bonus. If you're multiclassing, you get less because you don't deserve it. And then what I also have on the side here is every subclass ability that is affected by trying to replace sneak attack. So, Insightful Fighting for the Inquisitive provides you an additional way to trigger sneak attack. Easy swap. Just swap that so that it allows you to trigger rapid strikes instead. Wails from the Grave for the Phantom. It deals damage based on your sneak attack damage to a target different than the one you're using sneak attack on. I think it should instead trigger based on hitting a creature during your rapid strikes. And then you roll a number of d4s equal to your rapid strike number and deal that much damage. Rakish Audacity for the Swashbuckler provides an additional trigger. Straight swap. That can now trigger rapid strikes instead of sneak attack. Tokens of the Damned from the Phantom. It allows you to trigger Wails from the Grave when you deal sneak attack damage. Straight swap to trigger off of hitting a creature with your rapid strikes instead of dealing sneak attack damage. Eye for Weakness from the Inquisitive adds more damage to your sneak attack. Instead, if triggered, take one more rapid strike. Sudden Strike from the Scout. It allows you to use a bonus action to trigger sneak attack a second time in a turn against a different target. Again, straight swap, you can now use that bonus action to trigger rapid strikes instead. Rend Mind from the Soul Knife. Wisdom save triggered off of using your Psychic Blades for sneak attack. Straight swap, trigger off of using your Psychic Blades for rapid strikes.
I like to highlight a comment that Justin made in the chat. Smiles and 11 levels of Paladin. That is legitimate. This is pretty insane. I will make one note, just real quick. There are 2 light/finesse range weapons. That's dagger and dart. Oh, I guess there's light hammer.
The hand crossbow.
The hand crossbow. I don't see that in the list actually.
It's a martial range.
Oh, it
weapon.
is light. It is light. Sorry, it is light. I was looking at the simple ranged weapons. Okay. Wait, the light crossbow is not light, but the hand crossbow is?
The light crossbow is still a two-handed weapon.
It's light for a crossbow.
Right. But the hand crossbow is basically a gun.
Interesting note about that, though. Any improvised weapon that's light would get it.
Yes, well, and also, this does open up a few more strength-based options for rogues.
It does.
There are some light weapons that are not finesse, notably the club and the whip, I believe.
The light
whips
hammer
are finesse, but not light.
The light hammer, too.
Yeah.
And the sickle, actually.
Oh,
the sickle is not finesse.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, so for me, this is playing into the idea of rogues being predominantly fast. They are get in, deal a lot of damage, in this case with multiple attacks rather than a single devastating one, and then get out.
This is pretty wild. This is something that a DM will absolutely have to keep their eye on when giving out magical weapons.
Yes, a flame tongue dagger, for example, could be catastrophic.
Absolutely.
But worth noting, you can't switch targets. This is all one target.
Right, yeah. Which would fuck you if you're fighting, for instance, up here, who will burn you every time you hit them with an attack like this.
Or what is it? The the ground fire creatures.
Yeah, maybe that's. I'm sorry.
Am
I mixing? I think I'm mixing up the Behir with that. What are they called?
Remoraz, the ice fire.
Remoraz. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Not Behirs. Do Behirs have a similar feature?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Behirs are one monster that I actually know, and I'm pretty sure they don't have that.
Yeah. But yeah, Remorazes will fuck this rogue up.
That's fair, though. I like this, but this is crazy, and it would definitely need to be watched if used.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I have no idea if this is even remotely balanced.
Can I use this in your next campaign, Shawn?
We'll see. We'll see.
Honestly, there is a lot of math that needs to be done for this.
Yeah. Well, I will say that using typical rogue weapons, this is less damage than sneak attack. That's certain. Well, actually, that's not certain because each of these will get your modifier.
For me, the big trade-off here is consistency. If a rogue misses their one attack in a turn, that's it. You get 0 damage. If you are a 17th level rogue and you are making 6 attacks, none of those attacks will be as devastating as your 8d6 sneak attack, but you'll definitely chip in some damage.
Yeah. Did you have the let me see here. Not to make 6 number attack rolls good. So you don't have the clause in here that if you miss, you don't get to make the rest of them. Which I think
yes, I ended up not using that just because I felt it was a little bit too punishing.
I think it's a good call. But let's compare this to sneak attack. Let's just say that that they're just using a dagger with a 5 in dex, which is not hard to do as a rogue, because you get more ASIs as well. So let's look at 5th level. At 5th level, a rogue still only gets 1 attack. They only ever get 1 attack, and they do 3d6 damage. That's an additional about 11 damage on their attack. So we're looking at an additional 11 damage on top of the initial hit. With this, instead, you get 2 additional attacks because you're replacing the 1 advantage with 3 straight attacks. So it's only 2 additional attacks. If those hit, which is an if because they can miss, it's not a guarantee, that would be an additional 2d4 plus 5, 10 damage. So that overall more damage than the additional damage. But
wouldn't it be 2d4 plus 10? You're adding your dex mod to each attack.
That's what I said. At minimum 10 damage versus the average 11 damage for the 3d6.
Well, actually, this would be minimum 12.
It is minimum 12, but I'm using 10 to compare to 11 because there's 12 is equally as good. So minimum 12 damage, but you could miss some of that. They have about a 40% chance to miss in most situations.
Right. So instead, we're looking at, like, say, 6 with a 40% chance to miss. So, like, 3.5-ish damage off of that one. So, like, each attack as a d4 plus 5, you're looking at about 3.5 average damage.
Which is... that's fine. That's not that bad, not that far off. You get the benefits of additional attack because there are benefits to attacking more times than one. For instance, if you're using a magical weapon that does additional damage, or if you're using a magical weapon that procs a saving throw. Would this work? This wouldn't work for unarmed strikes because they technically aren't weapons that have light or finesse properties.
Right, yes.
The reason I bring that up is because 3 levels in Monk means a lot of options for stunning strike, but not any more than a Monk already gets, really.
I was going to say, monks already make a ton of attacks in a round. You'd need to get to 13 levels in Rogue before that really comes online as having more attacks.
Yeah.
And if you're dedicating 13 levels in Rogue to make your Monk build better, I think at that point it's just a Rogue build that you're dipping Monk for. Like,
one thing... Oh, go ahead, Zach.
What I love is this makes, like, everybody, loves a +3 sword, right? Or dagger, sure.
Yeah.
This makes a +3 any weapon like
really
that way useful.
Oh, yeah.
Super
useful.
useful.
Even a +1, just one more damage on all of these attacks.
And the attack rolls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which makes it more frequent to hit. One thing about this is that, in theory, you could get more attacks than a fully level 20 fighter if you take 2 levels in fighter and the rest of your levels in this rogue. You could get 12 attacks in 1 turn. Oh no, you said once per turn. It says once per turn.
Once per turn. You
just
would
like
get
sneak attack.
A maximum of 7. Well, 8 if you use your bonus action. you would get as many as the 20th level fighter if you did 2 levels in fighter, 18 levels in rogue with this.
That's not too bad. I think I'm way on board with this.
The numbers check out.
I think I am. I think the numbers do check out. I think in theory it could be less than regular sneak attack.
Well, and
on
honestly,
average.
I hate to say this because it will make me look like a much less prepared person. When I just generated a table in Homebrewery, it auto-populated that column with your proficiency bonus, and I was like, actually, you know what? That might just work.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
You know what? I definitely want it to grow slower than sneak attack, just because an extra attack is better than an extra D6. But I was like, I don't know how it should grow. And then I was like, you know what? I'm looking at these proficiency bonus numbers, and they were really onto something here with these numbers.
Yeah. In theory, this could actually do less damage than one sneak attack, because sneak attack's guaranteed on a hit. Whereas these are missing, so you have to calculate the hit chance. I want to when we work on the document to post, I'm gonna look at I'm gonna do an Excel sheet and compare how this damage works with the highest damaging weapon a rogue can do, which would be like a rapier or a scimitar. Or I think rapier is the strongest.
Rapier and scimitar are both D8, I believe.
Okay, they're just different damage types. Yeah. They're D6s. I think actually Rapier is D8, and I think Scimitar is D6.
I think they're both D6.
No, I thought.
No, Rapier's D8.
Rapiers were D8.
But Scimitars are definitely D6s. That's what freshly. I'm looking at a weapon table right now. Scimitars are D6s slashing, but they're also light. Rapiers aren't light, but they're finesse.
Oh, right. Scimitars are your best option if you don't take if you're trying to dual wield and you aren't taking a feat for it, scimitars are your best option.
So I'm gonna see what it looks like with a dagger, the most iconic, and then also with a rapier, and see how the two compare. I'm not gonna compare bonus actions because you can take your bonus action either way. As a rogue, so that pairs itself out. So I'm gonna see what that is, and I might change the numbers to make sure they match as equally.
Sure.
And I'm gonna compare also if you had a flame tongue, for instance, how that changes things, because that very much can.
In my defense, I think that once you're willing to throw a specific, very rare magical item at a class feature, it's kind of all right for that class feature to get super good.
Yeah, I agree. I think a DM who has these items, if they're not playing a module that has set items, they'll know that this rogue does this, and they'll be able to compensate for that themselves.
Right.
And if they want to give that rogue a flame tongue,
judicious about handing out a flame tongue, for example.
Yeah, if they want to give that rogue a flame tongue, that's up to them. So I'll test that out. I think these numbers might be perfect. Honestly, they might be right on dot, but we'll see.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, the table auto-populated, but the more I looked at the numbers and was fiddling with them, I was like, this feels right.
Yeah, definitely.
I love this.
Yeah, I think this is great.
I was agonizing over this all week. All week.
In the same way that you loved mine, I love this. If the numbers check out, I would seriously be interested in maybe playing this in Shawn's next campaign.
I definitely want to try this out in a one-shot the next time that we do it, because I think that this deserves that level of scrutiny.
Do you hear that, Sid? Adam wants to try it out in a one-shot. Sid was talking about possibly doing some one-shots. But yeah, I think this might all check out, and I mean, I'm going to make sure I do the numbers so that they absolutely check out later on. But I like the idea of this 100%. Just the fucking shit going on,
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely imagine rogues like that as well. Not just the one-hit kill, but also the quick attacking.
I think there's absolutely two different ways people see a rogue. You either slice the throat, or you Zoro their ass, and you fucking just you blind them with swipes.
Is in particular great for the fantasy of the swashbuckler.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And you know me, I am a sucker for the swashbuckler. That's why I'm playing a swashbuckler. I love it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to look at some of these subclasses. So a lot of these are just straight swapping when you do sneak attack with when you do rapid strikes.
Well, and in particular, the trigger would need to be when you hit a creature with one of your rapid strikes, because all of those triggers off of when you use your sneak attack only triggers on a hit. So
True. That is true.
So that's the thing. These would technically trigger more often for when you hit with one of your rapid strikes than when you deal sneak attack.
Well, you could just change that to once per turn when you hit them with one of your rapid strikes. Trigger this.
No, sorry. Yes, I do mean once per turn when you hit with one of your rapid strikes, but even that trigger is mathematically slightly more generous once you're above level 5.
Well,
Is it cleric that gets the added radiant damage to their attack from?
Cleric and paladin both do that. Cleric gets at level 8, so earlier than the paladin. But it's not all clerics. Every subclass has one of two features: potent spellcasting or divine strike. Every single one of them get one of those two at 8th level. Divine strike allows you to add a d8 of some damage, depending on what subclass you are.
Okay, it is only one shot a turn.
Either, no matter which subclass you are.
Tasha, I think so. It's either that or you get a different feature altogether. I'm not sure which.
Okay. I don't remember. Yeah.
It is only one turn.
Clerics get that at level 8, but it's a subclass feature, which is why you might not have been seeing it in the regular cleric build.
That is true. The cleric one is also once per turn, unlike the paladin. The paladin is as many times as you hit.
When do you get it as paladin?
11th level. It's improved divine strike. It says whenever you hit a creature with a attack using a melee weapon, you can deal 1d8 radiant damage on the attack.
Damn, yeah, that would be.
It would be pretty strong.
11th level.
But I mean, a rogue paladin build is already kind of a thing, and this just kind of signifies that. Anything that gets us further away from hexadins and hexas sorcerers and blah blah blah, I'm fine with that. I'm more than happy making features that encourage more diverse multi-class builds.
Well, and I love seeing Dexadin builds. So
yeah, Dexadin's fun. And if we have more time, I do have other class variant things we could look at that I have from the past that we don't really use very often. But I think
another thing that I would like to say is that because of the slightly different weapon restriction, this allows for strength rogue builds. Strokes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned
strokes.
You mentioned that later because you don't with. Wait, what separates this from strength builds? Because sneak attack was never the issue with strength builds.
Well, this unlocks slightly more weapons.
Is it not still just finesse and light?
Sneak attack doesn't trigger on any light weapon. It's only finesse
or ranged.
Oh,
yeah. This is a slightly different weapon trigger.
I see. Well, I mean, like I said, strength rogues have never. The problem with strength rogues is that their other features expect dex. Sneak attack's never really been the problem because you can use finesse with strength or dex. If anything, this just allows more thrown weapons to be usable, like the light hammer, for instance, the light hammer, which is pretty dope. If you have all those light hammers on you to throw, just
yeah.
But even this makes the handgun feel really, really cool too. This makes a lot of things feel really cool, honestly.
It does. All right. Well, like I said, we can fiddle with the numbers later on. I'm just glad we were presented with the idea, and I'm more than happy to give this a shot in a one shot, maybe even in a campaign. We'll see, because this looks like a really fun way to play a rogue.
Absolutely. Right. I'm in love with this.
Let's move on over to the last feature, which is another one of mine. Kind of is going to harken back to the fighter with the bonus action thing, but let me go ahead and just read it off. Unwavering Form, 7th level monk feature. Replaces Stillness of Mind. If you don't know, Stillness of Mind is the ability as an action on your turn to remove a charmed or frightened ability on yourself or effect on yourself. Replacing that with instead, you can use the flow of ki to guide your body when your muscles fail you. When you start your turn with the incapacitated, stun, or paralyzed conditions, and you are not unconscious, you can spend 1 key point to move and act in a limited capacity until the end of your turn. If you do, on this turn, your speed is halved, and you can use either an action or bonus action, not both. You are still affected by any other effects the condition imposes on you. So the idea of this is that your mind cannot be trapped in your body. You can, as long as your mind is conscious, control your body with external magical force with the key that you're using. And this directly simulates what slow does to you. Half your movement and action or bonus action. But you're still under the effects of that condition. So, for instance, if you are paralyzed and you use this and you hit someone with an attack and they have a reaction that can attack you back, they will have advantage and they will auto-crit you. So you are still vulnerable to those effects while you're doing this.
But you're just like, you're so like a monk of like control of your body that you're able to still move beyond what has been put on you.
So, honestly, I love this. I think it's great. My only problem with it is that it allows you to move while petrified.
Yes, I wanted to add a clause about that. Because I don't want to...
I think it would be as easy as saying, and you are not unconscious or petrified. But...
Yeah. Because reading it back just now...
Let a statue move.
Reading it back just now, I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to add a clause about petrified. Because when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't want this to work with petrified. And
you already mentioned all of the other conditions that
incapacitate you.
Condition.
Yeah.
So
I did want to add that. Though actually, let me check something. Petrified 5e. Just want to.
I like that this gives you the choice of like now you're choosing between charmed or frightened or wanting to be able to go through effects like this.
Yeah, I do. I like that a lot. That it gives you a choice between which effects do you want to be able to resist.
Because charmed and frightened are like effects that definitely come up pretty often, but so are these.
Yeah, especially incapacitated.
But that's the thing. Like these are more punishing when they come up, but also what you're given to deal with them is a weaker effect. It's not ended immediately. It's bypass it for a turn.
Actually, maybe I should keep it for petrified because, like, what if you use calcifying yourself, and you're immune to all damage, but you could still move and attack? That'd be kind of badass. No, that'd be busted as fuck. But yeah, no, I did want to add that. The reason my thinking was because petrified says that you're unaware of your surroundings, that unconscious followed that, but that's not enough to cover that base.
No, I think just adding petrified in there.
That's the thing. Unconscious and petrified both have the same sentence regarding how incapacitated you are. Because paralyzed and stunned and incapacitated don't say that you're unaware of your surroundings. Only petrified and unconscious do that.
Yeah, I was thinking perhaps I should just make it if you're still and you're not unaware of your surroundings, or you are aware of your surroundings. Because the whole idea is that as long as you're able to think, right? As long as you're aware of what's going on.
The problem is the aware of your surroundings language means that it would combo with calcify. Because I have a rider in there that you remain aware of your surroundings.
You're right. I mean, this is kind of badass,
I think that's also. I think it's also just hitting on the
but also
keywords of unconscious and petrified is better.
If you're a 7th level monk who can cast 4th level wizard spells, maybe you deserve to be able to do that.
No, you don't. You should never be able to be a
action.
Yeah. That is obviously fucked up.
You're already a god, whatever, dude.
Yeah, no, I should just make it if you're not unconscious or petrified, to make it as clear as possible. But yeah,
Yeah,
I just
that would come online at 14th level, so that's
yeah,
kinda fucked up.
it'd be pretty quick. But one thing that this immediately reminds me of, and I think Adam will know this. I don't know about Zach. The scene where in Bleach, where oh, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The Quincy fights Mayuri, the like creepy scientist guy, and he uses the strings to control his own body. This is exactly what I picture in that situation. Like, that's just badass. Using the spiritual energy.
Man, I want to reread Bleach now.
That's one of the coolest anime fights I've ever seen. I'm gonna be honest. I like that fight a lot.
Bleach had some really good fights in it. Man.
It did. A shame about everything else.
Wow, sick burn on tight Kubo.
Is it tight? I thought it was Tite.
I thought that it was tight because like that's not his actual name. It's a pseudonym that he writes under. And I thought it was supposed to be pronounced. Yeah, because it's written out in katakana as Taito. So yeah, it's tight Kubo.
Oh, okay. But yeah, any other
sick burn on that guy?
Yeah, sick burn on him. Any other notes on this? I thought it was. I just love this idea.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, you want the rider against not being able to use it while petrified. You're still affected by other effects, so like you're taking a risk by doing this while incapacitated.
Yeah,
and you have to use a key to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think worth like tossing around is one key the right cost? Like one,
I think so.
Maybe two. I think one is probably
giving
closer.
You a slow
I think
turn.
that this effect is worth like 1.5 key.
Perhaps, yeah. My picturing, exactly the same frame, because my picturing Stunning Strike is worth 1.5 key, and this is kind of the inverse of that, where you're overcoming that effect on yourself. So that was also sort of like my thinking was like, they already have something going on with stun, like, but they don't have any protections of their own against that, and I was like, I think it'd be kind of badass.
Aside from proficiency in all saving throws and Indomitable 14 times a day.
Yeah. Besides those, nothing specific though. All right. Well, we spent a lot of time here. I don't know if you guys happen to have any extra ones, but I do.
I mean, if you got an extra one, pull it up, man. I spent all of my brain power on rapid strikes this week. So
let's look at some stuff here. Let's look at my strength monk, because that's exactly this. Where is that at? That's where is that at? Just gotta find that page. Is it no combat features? Alternative class features. All right. Ignore all the other stuff, because this is kind of busted. This is fine, but it doesn't matter. So we've got the strength monk here. I gotta scroll down a little bit more here. Basically, what I've done is I've changed every feature the monk has that depends on the dexterity and swapped it for strength. So it's very, very on the nose, just meant to be, you can be a strong monk. So the first effect, obviously, this is a hard one to flavor. I know many people have had a hard time doing it. I don't think it was that difficult. But basically, unarmed defense, we all know that. Dex and wisdom. How do you make strength your armor? Well, I say you basically convert your muscle into armor with your key. You tighten it so tightly that when you're hit by something, it like... again, if you've watched Bleach, Kenpachi is really hard to cut because this very same reason. He has like this rough skin, like his spiritual energy is so strong that you have to hit him really hard.
Is this whole class based on that?
Monks are anime, dude. I don't know what to tell you. That's what they are.
I mean, like the 5e monk is very much a like anime protagonist in D&D. Like,
yeah, they're the, or maybe not even the protagonist, but like the mentor character who's like so badass. Damn right, monks are anime. So basically, it's just unarmed defense, but strength instead of dex. And then the next ability, which is probably the biggest change, the most like, how do I really do this change? Is deflect missiles. Starting at 3rd level, you can use your reaction to deflect or catch a weapon when you're hit by a melee weapon attack. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus your strength modifier plus your monk level. So all the same. But the big change is, if you reduce the damage down to 0, you can catch the attack if it was made by a creature that is large or smaller. So it has the same kind of limitation as deflect missiles. You can't deflect a boulder being thrown at you, but you can deflect a dart. It has to fit your hand. Same with this, it has to be a reasonably sized attack for you to stop it. If you have at least one hand free. If you catch the attack in this way, you could spend 1 key point to make an unarmed strike against the attacking creature as part of the same reaction. So you stop them and you reverse it. You basically counter their attack. So
that's just dope.
Yeah, I think it's pretty dope. Also very anime.
Imagining that is dope.
Yeah, you're just like,
yeah.
Yeah. It is a little bit stronger than deflect missiles. And I think deflect missiles does not use a key point. And I made this use a key point because it is a bit stronger. The reason it's stronger is because hitting a creature with a monk weapon is not as strong as an armed strike. Because an armed strike generally has the same damage die, but you can stunning strike them and various other monk abilities that like subclasses can do. So I wanted to give it a cost because punching someone or kicking them or kneeing them, however you flavor your unarmed strikes, can be stronger in a lot of situations.
It does take a key to do deflect missile.
It does take a key? Okay. Well, then I didn't do that. I did make this a long time ago. So I thought perhaps I had done that. I think
copy-pasted with strength.
Yeah, I think modern me would have done that.
At higher tiers, you're less likely to be able to reduce the damage to 0 from a single attack.
Yeah.
Like, you're taking some big damage.
Yeah. And often, I mean, this is just stopping one attack. You're not doing it about any of the other attacks. With deflect missiles, you might be. Maybe they only have one dart or dagger to throw at you. Because, like, some of the situations I imagine with deflect missiles is that, like, maybe you're just walking the street and someone's trying to assassinate you with like a poison dagger or something, and you're just like, nope, and you turn it back around on them. Or an instance in one of our campaigns, you're gambling with a bunch of shady individuals, and one of them throws a dagger at you to like threaten you or intimidate you, and you're just like, nope, and you turn it back around on them. For some reason, I don't imagine nearly as much as I do with like someone who can attack you a billion times with a bow, which obviously it's going to show up that often as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily busted. And the last one here is essentially when you come into a situation that allows for evasion, you can just use your strength instead of your dexterity in those situations, and it's perfectly fine. This one is, I think... So this one is technically stronger because it allows you to choose between dex and strength, so there's more versatility. But is it actually stronger because you're focusing your strength instead of your dex?
Well, and also, I mean, eventually this isn't true, but at 7th level, monks aren't proficient in strength saves, are they?
Yeah, they are. Monks get dex and strength as their proficiencies at 1st level.
Oh, fuck, right, because wisdom is another strong save.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, but the reason
I think is a little bit iffy just because it does give you that choice.
Well, the reason it doesn't matter that it gives you that choice is because with evasion, normally you are already focusing your dexterity. So it's not giving you any sort of advantage over a normal monk. Right?
Right.
This doesn't allow you, for instance...
It's just saying you don't have to give up the fact that you have a strong save to focus on being a strength monk. Like, you still get your strong save in dex.
Yeah.
But only some of the time. Because you don't get your dex save against, like, being knocked down or something.
It does change all dex saves into strength saves effectively. It does. Sorry, but Justin said it does change all dex saves into strength saves effectively. Because most dex saves do have that caveat. The reason that I don't think that's a big deal, as Adam just said, is that this isn't any stronger than a monk that just already has that. The only reason it's stronger is because this does mean that your normal strength saves are also stronger than a normal monk, but there's so few strength saves that it doesn't really matter. It is a weak save. So this is...
Strength is like... It's not the weakest save. I think intelligence is the weakest save, but strength is not a good save.
I would... they kind of balance themselves because the things that happen to you if you fail an intelligence save are much worse than the things that happen to you if you fail a strength save generally.
Well, although, I mean, if you're not a caster, getting feeble-minded isn't that bad.
I guess that's fair, yeah. And if you are feeble-minded as a monk, you keep your wisdom, so
Yeah.
is it that big of a deal? I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely still bad, but
Yeah.
like, especially since you only repeat the save every 30 fucking days.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. 8th level spell, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, man, I sit so low. My head's like peeking out from the book. But yeah, this is stronger than regular evasion. But I also don't think a lot of people are really striving for a strength monk. I know a lot of people talk about it like, oh, I can't build my strength monk. But those are the people who want to build a strength monk making the post on the internet. All of the other people who are just like, no, I want a dex monk, don't complain about it. So you don't see it as often. I think a strength monk's pretty cool. Generally, I prefer the dex flavor, personally. But I do like the idea of like the unmoving earth monk. You know. And there are a lot of subclasses that might still depend on dex that aren't this. So I didn't account for this at the time when I made this stuff. To account for subclasses that might focus more on dex anyway. So it's kind of in the same thing that Zach said earlier about his druid thing. Is like, don't be a moon druid. And that's kind of what I at the time, I was okay with that thought process. I'd probably, if I made this now, I'd probably tweak it differently and, you know, make those base cases change. I think I was too scared to change too much back then. Despite anybody who happens to be reading this section, which I told you not to do because it's busted.
Yeah, I thought you said that the bard was fine. It was the paladin that was busted.
No, the paladin's fine. The bard is busted.
Okay.
The paladin literally just changes melee weapon attack with range weapon attack. It's exactly the same. It just gives you more range, which is, I mean, the creators have already said that that's not busted, so whatever.
Yeah, they've already said, oh yeah, basically all the limitations we put on Divine Smite weren't because it's broken, it's just because we didn't like the flavor. And it's like,
Yeah.
Well, shut up, Jeremy.
That's my kind of skill making.
But
That's how I feel about it. I like the flavor of it.
This bard thing is busted. Fuck it, let's just talk about it. All right.
We do
So-
have 10 minutes left in our regularly scheduled time.
Yeah, I liked past bards where their song persisted and allowed people to continue to get a buff from it. So that's what this was trying to emulate. And I tried to limit it in some ways to make it kind of balanced, but I think it is stronger than Bardic Inspiration generally. It lasts for less. Let me just read it. You inspire others by singing songs or playing music. As an action, that's the big first change. You can begin singing a song of inspiration, granting all creatures of your choice other than yourself within 60 feet of you who can hear you one Bardic Inspiration die, a d6. A creature can only have one Bardic Inspiration die at a time. A creature you choose can also use the die, or the creature you can choose can use the die as specified by one of the following types of inspiration, which you choose when you begin playing the song. So you only give one buff. Power, they add it to their attack rolls and damage rolls. Competence, they add it to their ability checks. And courage, they add it to their saving throws. So you choose one of the three types of rolls, and they
Also,
add.
pretty important that you're glossing over. All of those use your reaction.
I was about to say that, yes. So the creature, it doesn't just get it passively. When they want the buff, they use the reaction to add it. So I changed the action economy on this and the duration. It only lasts a minute. It takes an action from the bard to use, and it takes a reaction to use the bardic inspiration, as opposed to just being a no action required buff. And the song ends early if you're incapacitated or if you begin playing another song. But you can choose to end it early, no action required if you want. And then all the other stuff still scales the same way. The D6s scale the same way, and you still get it on a short rest later on when you get Font of Inspiration. Though I don't have that written here, I don't think. But it was meant to be that way. So it adds to all of the same kinds of rolls. You don't get the freedom to choose what kinds of rolls it goes to, but you can add it to all of those rolls. The reason I think this is still stronger is because that means the fighter can add it to, well, they can't add it to all their attacks. They can add it to one attack per turn. Maybe this isn't as strong as I thought it was.
I was gonna
That
say,
seems
the
decent.
more I'm reading this, like, this is definitely strong, but I don't think this is as busted as you were leading us to believe. Because, like,
No.
you have to use your reaction to consume it. You have to stay within 60 feet of the bard. Like,
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is maybe 30 feet instead of 60 feet, but even then, I don't think that's too strong.
I just wanted to keep it the same as the original Inspiration, how it was in previous editions.
Oh, is Inspiration 60 feet?
Yeah.
That makes sense then.
yeah, well, and
I mean, I guess that would still be my only reason for lowering it is because you are affecting all in the area. So it's 30 feet instead of 60. But
Yeah. That is a big difference. That does affect all creatures in the area. So this does increase how often the die becomes used. I think that's really the big thing. Because
right, yeah, each use of inspiration is now going to be a handful of d6s instead of one.
yeah, quite a few d6s if the creatures are dedicated to using the reaction each turn to use it.
Right.
But often a lot of people have better reactions to use.
But a lot of builds don't.
Yeah. This would
Like-
really help spellcasters, for instance, I think.
This would really help spellcasters, and this would really help ranged fighters. If you're at range just using your longbow, you probably aren't using your reaction for
It's true.
anything, so you can probably afford to just pump in an extra d6 damage on a sharpshooter attack. Or add a d6 to your attack roll on a sharpshooter attack. Cancel out that -5.
This is really good for your back line, essentially. Less useful for your front line.
But definitely still good.
Yeah.
Adding d6 to whichever thing they need. If you want to pump out more damage or get more hits in, choose power. If you want to make sure that they're making saving throws against, I don't know, a Medusa or a Beholder or something, choose courage. Like, no, this is definitely an upgrade for the Bard, but I think it'd be worth playing around with.
Yeah, I for a long time, I've wanted to make a character in a one-shot that was one of these, the Ranged Paladin, which, like I said, is just a swap, the Strength Monk or the Performing Bard, and I just haven't done it. I keep on... Every time we do a one-shot, there's so much space where there's, like, this new stuff that came out I want to try. So I'm like, oh, I kind of want to try the new, I don't know, like, the Brute Fighter was one of them, where, like, instead of being the Strength Monk...
Fighter, I'm so upset that they abandoned that.
Oh yeah, Justin did play a Strength Monk in one of my one shots. How'd that feel, by the way? I think I don't know if you ever got to use like I don't know if you got to use many of these besides Unarmed Defense, honestly.
so with this one,
The Bardic one.
yeah, when you play the song for the first time, everybody in the area gets a die.
Yeah.
When they leave it, they lose it, but when they enter it, you can choose to have them gain it.
So if they use it while they're in the area, do they get another one?
They just always have it while they're hearing the song.
You don't consume the die when you use your reaction. You just use your reaction to roll it.
Yeah. So everyone that you choose within your area has the die, and while they have that die, they can use their reaction to do it. That's it. There's no consumption involved.
That is pretty strong. I think maybe making a con check to keep it up or something. If you're like getting hit.
Did I not add that? I did not add that.
You don't have a concentration check to keep it up.
That's a good choice. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Because I have it in there that if you get incapacitated, you stop playing the song.
Yeah, that's the only way you stop playing it.
Should it maybe require some kind of like recurring investment from the bard? Like
Yeah,
that
action to begin it, and then a bonus action each turn to
keep it.
continue.
That was something I was thinking about because past bards do have to use their swift action to keep it up. Generally, eventually they level out of that. In fact,
I think minor tweaks are needed to this, but I don't think it's crazy powerful. But as is, it's pretty way stronger than Bardic Inspiration.
it happens more often with this. This one thing I do like about this though is that it's perfectly amiable to all other like subclass things, like the Sword of Valor. You can or Sword of Valor. What? The Swords or Valor bards when they use their inspiration for this type of stuff, they just expend their inspiration. There's no like, while you have inspiration, you do this type of thing. So it works for most of them. I'm sure there's at least one that conflicts with this. But like I said, when I made these back in the day, I just ignored that. This is years old. I don't know how old, but years old. But now I'm interested in making these work. I don't know if I'll add any of these to the document that we're gonna publish or post, but we had this extra time, so I figured we'd talk a little bit about these.
No, I'm glad that you brought these up because we definitely had some good discussion about these.
Yeah, I have always liked how the Bard worked in previous editions compared to the new one. The new one, again, definitely a lot more streamlined, definitely a lot more simple, definitely a lot easier to understand. But I like the idea of like, the drummer boy in the battlefield, the guy who inspires people like as it's going.
I do like that.
You don't get that as much, I don't think, with the way the 5e works.
Yeah, the new one's more like a few notes to do a thing.
Yeah, you just like
whatever.
Every person in your party has like a motif that you play to inspire them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
or sometimes you just point at them and say, "You got this."
Yeah, that's the classic. You got this. that was Marion's whole thing. I wasn't gonna fucking sing at the table. What am I, Justin? I'm not that confident in myself, or that I can't kill my ego that well to be able to do something like that. Something about singing gets to me, and dancing for that matter.
I think we had good talks today. I think we've got some ones that need to be tweaked a little bit, some ones that need to be tested.
Yeah,
but I like all of these.
I'm excited to do the Excel sheet for the Rogue, just to see how all that looks.
Yeah, definitely share that with me once you get it figured out, because I'd be interested to see that.
I had to do a similar thing for the Magus to compare it to the Paladin Smite, and I was like, okay, this isn't busted like I thought it might be. It's actually like right on par. But yeah, well, that was everything that we had. We might have had more new stuff to post if you guys have brought more than one, but I guess I'm just an overachiever once again.
Brain power went to that one.
Well, that's the thing. Like you had 3 features with like relatively short descriptions. We had game altering changes to make.
It's true. It's good that we had those though.
What would you guys like to talk about next week?
I think we're finally doing feats.
Well, did Adam said he was thinking about something? Do you guys have any ideas that aren't feats?
I have a small idea.
Okay.
Well, what's your idea, Zach?
We don't have to do it next week even, but we can all come up with just like a character or a town or a villain and talk about like how we homebrewed that and like what we do and don't like about those types of things. Expanding it away from just like feats and stuff like that, because it is all homebrew.
Yes, this has been all basically mechanical
stuff. We really need to start like writing down these ideas.
Or a creature.
Because every week we talk about like, oh yeah, we might do X, Y, or Z, and then we do one of them, and then just completely forget about the other 2.
Nah, we can just rewatch it.
That is an interesting idea. Coming up with a town or something, or never forget feats. Because everything that we've done has been mechanical. I had always just had the impression that we would just do pretty much all mechanical stuff. But
well, we could do like, okay, so maybe like a villain or a town is a little bit different. But we could do a creature.
What about a monster?
Yeah, that's exactly a monster.
Oh yeah, that'd be down. I'd be down with that 100%.
Because that could be something that.
So my suggestion was going to be a subclass, but I kind of like the monster idea now.
Let's be a little bit more specific than just a monster. How about we do so 4E had this thing where there were monsters, but there were multiple kinds of each monster that had different abilities based on their role in combat. I don't want to do specifically that, but what if we take an existing monster and tweak it to be some sort of monster that fits better within either their community or with their lore or with maybe a specific game mechanic that it hasn't really been touched in. Like, for instance, what if we wanted... a big thing is that displacer beasts are supposed to be stealthy, but they have shit stealth or something like that. So we could tweak monsters to be like a variant monster, like with the trolls in Mordekaiser's, for instance. The trolls, there's like 4 different kinds of trolls now that you can use. So we just take...
I think a variant monster would be good. I'm not sure I know the monsters enough to know if the lore fits their...
I don't either. No. I said that could be one avenue, right? What part of this is talking about what our inspiration is? You can do lore. You could do just a variant. You could do a type of that monster that, like, you think you're looking at the monster and you're like, what if there was like a brutish form of this monster, right? Like you're looking at like a lion or like a dire monster, for instance. So like just some alteration on the monster that is divergent from what it is.
Well, like how for beholders, there's undead beholders, and there's like the eye tyrant. Like there's different versions of the beholder. Like basically taking taking a monster that there's maybe only one version of in the monster manual and making it do something else.
I like that, creating a new version of an existing monster.
That's what I've been saying,
Yeah,
Zach.
that's what Shawn was trying to get at. I think I just like...
I love this idea that I've come up with.
All right, yeah, I'm down with that 100%. I thought eventually we would do monsters. Eventually we'll do feats. Who knows?
Hey, we should start a short list. Let me open up a notepad file.
Yeah.
So
well, we can do this off the podcast.
Yeah.
And then maybe talk about it next time. We can make a shared file, like an Excel sheet where we talk about like what we could talk about, and then maybe we could do like a voting system and decide what we can do each week. But anyway, so next week we're doing variant monsters, monsters that already exist, but we're tweaking them in some way. Like I said, it could be appealing better to the lore. It could be like creating a dire version of a monster. I think perhaps we should make more than one, unless we're all making incredibly strong like CR 17 and higher monsters, because it's potential that we won't actually be talking about them too much. So I'm gonna say
monsters don't necessarily present a ton to discuss. So my plan is to bring maybe like 2 or 3.
Yes.
2 or 3.
Like I said last week, we are each doing a minimum of 2. I don't care. I don't give a fuck how complicated one of your monsters is. Make at least one more.
Okay.
It could be the simplest change, but at least make it.
Okay. If you insist.
I do insist. And we'll have to remind... is Justin going to be here next week? We don't know. Stay tuned for that. But Justin might be able to bring something as well. Maybe the reason why we were so short on stuff is because Justin didn't bring anything, guys. It's all Justin's fault.
Justin, you're slacking, dude.
Justin. Anyway, that's going to be it for this week. Be sure to join us next time, 7:00 p.m. Wednesday, Eastern Daylight Time, as we are here in the Midwest. And we appreciate you guys following in. Look forward to the post on Friday. That's the day we post on the social medias where we do all the updates and stuff. And yeah. What was the thing that I said last time?
Oh God.
Whatever is lost must be found. Whatever is found must be remembered.
I
say
think
it with confidence.
Said. Yeah. Bye.
That wasn't confident? All right. Whatever is lost must be found, and whatever is found must be remembered. See you next week.